Hi, my name's Evan. I'm 17 years old. I've had type 1 diabetes for 3 years, and I'm here to show you what it's really like living with this disease, as well as encourage others with type 1 diabetes. So how am I gonna do this? Well, the answer is hiking. This is because in my personal experience, hiking changes your blood sugars the most out of any exercise or any activity you can do. So I think it's the perfect thing to show all the ins and outs of this disease. So what is type 1 diabetes? So basically, your pancreas produces insulin, but for type 1 diabetics, the pancreas stops producing insulin. Insulin is vital for the body as it maintains blood sugars as we eat, as well as when the liver produces glucose. So without insulin, we have a big problem. So the average person's blood sugar will stay between 4 and 10 throughout their entire life, but for type 1 diabetics, it frequently goes beyond 10 and below 4. And these have significant side effects. For high blood sugars, lack of concentration, irritability, nausea, fatigue, and for low blood sugars, confusion, shakiness, lightheadedness, weakness, and many other symptoms, and they can both actually cause death. Severe blood sugars are usually above 17 for about 6 hours, and it can be lower, but it has to be a longer amount of time, or higher in a shorter amount of time. And this can cause something called DKA, which will lead to a coma and eventually death, potentially. And below 3.0 for 30 minutes can cause seizures, which can also lead to death. And the fastest I've ever seen my blood sugar drop is about 2 points every 5 minutes, which can be very scary when you get down to the lower numbers, like 6, because within 10 minutes you could be at 2, which is very scary. So what do type 1 diabetics have to do to control this? For me, I have to take an average between 5 to 10 needles per day. These needles are for injecting insulin into the body through the fat layer. Some other people can take insulin through something called a pump, which just goes directly on the arm or abdomen. And these pumps stay on there for usually about 3 days at a time. Unfortunately, this is a very small part of the disease, and the main aspect of it is actually calculating the dosage. So how do we do that? Well, they estimate that there's about 42 factors that affect blood sugar, and we have to take all of these into account every single time we take insulin. The biggest ones for me, though, are definitely the carb types and exercise. Complex carbs would include whole grains and fruit, while simple carbs would be like candy, juice, and chips. Fat, protein, and fiber are also 3 things that affect your dosage. Another thing that affects your blood sugar is the timing of your insulin. They recommend to take your insulin about 15 minutes before you eat your food. So if you eat a meal full of simple carbs, your blood sugar might spike, but then drop very quickly as well. If you eat a meal of more complex carbs, your blood sugar will more likely do something like that. Fat delays the absorption of glucose. Protein raises glucose over many hours, but just very minimally. Fiber actually slows the absorption of glucose. So if you mix a simple carb meal with lots of fat, you can also get the effect where it doesn't go as high and it goes over a long period of time. Unfortunately, it's nearly impossible to get these right every single time, meaning my blood sugar goes high and low basically every single day. I would estimate on average every week I go above 18 at least once and below 3.7. In my lifetime, I've been above 25 and I think it was about 1.9, which was the scariest experience in my life. So what about exercise? Fortunately, exercise is even more unpredictable because every single type of exercise can either lower or raise your blood sugars. The raise in blood sugars would come from stress hormones released while exercising, and the lowering of blood sugars would just be because your veins and arteries and blood is flowing faster and the insulin is being more moved around. I've been recommended to reduce my dosage by half during exercise or more, and this is something I kind of forgot to do on my hike. Anyways, let's get into my hiking experience. We made it to the start of the trail. 11.2, which is okay because lots of exercise. Currently 14.1, which is quite high, but I'm doing lots of exercise, so it should come down on their own. But we'll keep an eye out for them. As you can see, my blood sugar is now dropping, as I predicted. This nice, beautiful waterfall.
out.
You took a full pillow with you?
Yeah.
I'm gonna take, I think, 5 units of insulin for this. After this quick lunch, we decided to walk down to the beach, which was about a 2.5 kilometer hike, so 5 kilometers total. And I just had to watch my blood sugars because I just took insulin. I took insulin for the meal, and you can see the spike, but it's starting to drop quite rapidly right now. So I'm just eating my Sour Patch Kids, and we're hiking to the beach. As you can see, it's starting to go up now. It was dropping pretty quick. In this next clip, we just got back from the beach and I had to fill up my water, so I used my water filter. After that, it was time to make dinner. Do you have any soap? Or this gnocchi dish. It has lots of potatoes. My blood sugar is also quite high, so I'm going to take, I think, about 7 units of insulin. Looking back on it now, I should have probably taken about 5 units for this meal, and it was probably about 45 grams of carbs or so. Looking really nice. So it's 5.7 and dropping, so not a good sign. So seeing some sugar here. And on my Dexcom, it's telling me 7.7 and dropping. So sometimes a bit of a discrepancy between the two. My blood sugar is still 5.8. At this point, we were already back to the campsite, so most of my time was just spent watching my blood sugars, eating sugar, and we also were playing some Scrabble. I took a little bit too much insulin. It's going low. This is kind of what happens. That's when I took it, at the top there. Way too high. And then it dropped really. It dropped and it was stable for a little bit and then dropped again, which sometimes happens because I think it's the slow burning of the carbs. So at this point, I had already panicked a little bit and took way too much sugar, but probably about 60 grams. And it showed that my blood sugar was flat for a little bit, but as you'll see here, it's gonna spike. And that was a big mess up on my part. Unfortunately, I overcorrected with my sugar. But I'm thinking of taking 17 units, which is down from my 22 units that I took last night. I might even take 16 units. I still have to think about it. So the 17 units I mentioned here are of long-lasting insulin, which, as I mentioned in the video, I took 22 the night before. So bringing it down by 5 seemed like a correct dose for me. Just took the 17 units. After this, I actually fell asleep for a little bit, but I still wanted to watch my blood sugars just to make sure they were going to come down. But funnily enough, you'll see what woke me up.
Is he outside? Or inside?
He's in. To me, this was a really funny experience, and it only happened because I accidentally fell asleep with the tent fly open, which wouldn't have happened if I wasn't trying to watch my sugars. So here you can see exactly what my blood sugars did throughout the night. You can see that they went all the way up to 19, but they gradually came down from there, which was really good. But that just made me very exhausted for the next day. And to be honest, I didn't have a great sleep. So unfortunately, my blood sugars were really high through the night. They went up to about 19, which is horrible. The normal range is between 4 and 10. But thankfully they came down to about 8, which is still high. It's it's good. Eight's still a little bit high, but they came down to about 8 by the morning. So I'm feeling a bit better now, but it was a hard one last night. I took insulin twice, once just 1 unit and once 2 units. Fully packed and heading out. That morning we just decided to skip breakfast altogether, and I also wanted to see what happened while fasting and hiking at the same time, what happens to my blood sugars, and I think it's really interesting actually. My blood sugars are now 7.3 and slowly dropping, which is good because they're 8 when I woke up, 9 actually, and the exercise is dropping them. Blood sugar is currently 5.8 and dropping, but it's not dropping too quick, so I think it should be fine. I'm eating about 20 grams of sugar, I think, so it should go up. My blood sugars have about stabilized, as I expected. And we're almost wrapping it up here at the end of the trail. And here we are.